Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure, is sponsored by us. What? We sponsor ourselves? Is that even legal? Check us out on Amazon. You can have access to the titles of Pedagogue, the youth ministry book by Lonnie Jones, Cognitive Spiritual Development, a Christ-centered approach to spiritual self-esteem, Grappling with Life, Controlling Your Inside Space, a small essay using the principles of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to talk about psychological and emotional self-defense, If I Were a Mouse, a children's book written and illustrated by Lonnie Jones, and then The Selfish Reel, a very short story about a decision. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel to see archived lessons and presentations from across the country, some videos with rope tricks and knots. Don't forget to visit the Facebook page 550 Guys to learn about the little rope men that we make and that we invented and that we make. And then be sure to click like, subscribe, and share. This is Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. The Jack Zorn Scholarship is named after the founder of Lads to Leaders, who is also a Faulkner alumnus. This scholarship is meant to help address the minister shortage in the churches of Christ. It provides a completely free tuition to qualified students who are majoring in either Bible or ministry and are committed to becoming a minister after graduation. Applicants who have been accepted for admission and completed all scholarship requirements by December the 15th each year will receive priority consideration. You can apply for this at faulkner.edu and click Apply Now. Faulkner.edu, click Apply Now. Or for more information and a review of the requirements, visit faulkner.edu/Zorn, Z-O-R-N, faulkner.edu/Zorn, or contact admissions at faulkner.edu. Faulkner University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. We, and by we I mean 3 young adult males and I, and as much as it hurts to admit it, I was the oldest guy in the group and should have been the most mature. We're about to enter a local fast food place. And as we got out of the vehicle, a very small, very obnoxiously loud, lowered finned rice rocket road racer whipped into the parking lot. We all had to jump back and adjust our position to avoid becoming street pizza. And then the driver emerged, and he was dressed in some type of jersey and probably a fraternity, judging by the Greek symbols on the sleeves and the one prominently displayed Greek symbol right around his abdomen. But across the front of his chest was the word Master Dog. Master Dog, one word. Now, I'm not up to date on my frats, my clubs, my Shriners, but I can only surmise that a master dog, one word, is slightly less important than the lustrous potentate and somewhere above a running lackey dog. I've never really understood the whole Shriner thing. I don't understand the conventioneer, fez donning, vest wearing with all the merit badges and patches. But if that's your thing, why not? Go big or go home, wear all the stuff that you can. I was at a training with Ben Hayes one time. We were in Chattanooga, and we were attending a 5-day workshop on trauma-informed hypnosis. And we were in one conference room, and the conference room next to us, just separated by a sliding wall, was a convention. And every time we had to transition from our room to a break room or our room to lunch, or even in the morning or even in the evenings, we had to navigate through about 300 people who were bedecked in all the trappings of conventioneers. And as we would negotiate through the tangle of bodies straight out of Hey Hira, Georgia, Ben Hayes would sing, "It's the 43rd annual convention of the Grand Mystic Royal Order of the Noble." I warned him. I said, "Ben, if I'm forced to fight my way out of this, I will use you as my weapon." Now, he's not actually afraid of me. He's not intimidated by me. And so his threats did not deter his singing. And he did this the entire week that we interfaced with the Shriners group. But I digress. We tried to enter Wendy's, and the master dog cut us off abruptly. and walked in front of us. Now, he opened the door just wide enough to allow his 110-pound skinny form to slither into the opening and close behind him. Now, normally in the South, when you enter a building, you hold the door wide enough so that other people can go through the same opening, or you stand aside and let them enter first, and then by convention, they will go ahead and give you your place ahead of them in the line. But I'm not a big dog, and I'm not a master dog, so I stood there quietly as this kid bounced in front of us. We opened the door for ourselves, and as we started to approach the counter was separated from the general public by a series of those little metal rails. I think now it's just politically correct to have some kind of webbing or some kind of tape up. But this back in those days when you had the metal railings like they have at Six Flags, and we were just about to get in and form up in the queue and establish a line. And we entered the end of the little guardrail thing, but Master Dog slipped lithely under the railings, the lowest railing, kind of like a Spider-Man crawl, and he emerged in front of the line, in front of not only our party, but the few customers that were already in line ahead of us. And then he just stood there. He stood there in his best pose and displayed the back of his jersey, which read, "2BAD4U." Now, this is in the days before we spent our time abbreviating stuff and using emojis. The only time anybody had to ever decipher encrypted letters all jammed together with very few vowels and a few numbers mixed in, when you're looking at vanity car tags. Now, probably one day we're going to discover that everything we think we know about Egyptian hieroglyphics is just wrong. And we're going to realize that the walls of the pyramid and all those things the Egyptians did were just covered by emojis. But anyway, there's this kid with a warning or an advertisement on his back. And it says, "Too bad for you." Now, I don't know if it means it's too bad that he broke line in front of us, or it means that he is too bad for us to handle. But the only problem is with his sign, "Too bad for you," it was abbreviated. He didn't use the 15 spaces required to spell out the whole sentence. But he's wearing what looked like was a personalized vanity plate version with the number 2, the letters BAD, the letter 4, and the letter U. 6 characters, no spaces. Now they should require 15 spaces, but he crammed it into 6 because that's all he had the room for. You see, I'd not been impressed with this kid up to this point, and I might have been impressed if this waif had had broad enough shoulders to accommodate all the 15 spaces necessary to support the sentence declaring that he was too bad for you. If you could have spelled it as a full declaration, I'd have given him some points. But as it was, his shoulders were about as wide as a license plate. Now, I'll readily admit he may be too bad for me. I mean, Bruce Lee only weighed 130 pounds. But too bad for you, Master Dog stood there with his arms folded, back flared, in full defiance to us all. And he clearly suffered from ILS, imaginary lat syndrome. Bruce Lee, at least, was all muscle. This kid looked emaciated, like he'd spent the last several years in an episode of Alone or in a prison camp. But nonetheless, he stood there regaled in all his fraternity majesty, displaying that he was indeed too bad for us. And he stood there with all the confidence of a 4-year-old wearing a Batman t-shirt. You may find it hard to believe that in my younger days I had somewhat of a filter problem, and that I would say things and then on reflection would later regret it. Most people would agree with part of that statement, that I would say things they probably don't believe that I actually regret them. But I opined to my companions who were standing in line with us, and I just simply said, in my experience, if this were true, one would have room to spell the letters all the way out across their shoulders. And yes, I said it. I said it out loud. I should not have said it, nor should I have said it as loud as I said it, but I said it. And it had sufficient volume and timing such that everybody in the line, not just the guys with me, but everybody standing beside Mr. Too Bad for You, began to laugh. And they laughed loudly and they laughed sustained. And it reached a level of discomfort. I even suffered a little bit from some vicarious embarrassment. I did not know everybody could hear me. Mr. Master Dog never looked around. He slid beneath the rails and scampered out like a run-over dog, and he went out the way he came in. My initial thought was, hey, he'd go into the vehicle and retrieve a pistol, and I'm about to be on CNN. But he simply got in his little souped-up ride and raced away. Cujo had become Odie. And I'm superimposing a lot of things here. This young man may have just decided he didn't want Dave's original single, which I can see that. There's no way this kid is a double with cheese, frosty kind of guy. He may have had pressing business that only master dogs are qualified to deal with. But I believe he left because he realized he wasn't exactly as bad as he thought he was. He wasn't too bad for anyone. In fact, he went from being too bad to just feeling bad. And some of that was my fault. I'd said the things in a jesting manner, but I'd humiliated him. I'd embarrassed him. But he'd advertised a slogan, and he was attempting to behave in character with his slogan by acting bad, by being rude, or by being unaware of others, or simply just by breaking line. He'd had a slogan, and he tried to live up to it. Now, had he had a slogan that said, I'm rude, if he'd written on the back of his shirt, I don't care about others, if he'd written on the back of his shirt, me first, I could have probably lived with that. But the vanity plate 2BAD4U, number 2, BAD, letter 4, letter U, I can live with that. So I said something, and I shouldn't have. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating when we make proclamations of who we are and what we are, and we get called out on it. It's embarrassing when we make bold claims about who we are and what we are, and somebody says, no, you're not. Or somebody gives you an opportunity to prove it, and you can't. I was at a stoplight one time, and the car in front of me had a bumper sticker, and it said, honk if you love Jesus. Well, the light turned green, and I noticed the bumper sticker, and I gave him a quick beep, and the guy angrily turned around and gave me the finger. Honk if you love Jesus, but I'm going to give you a rude gesture if you honk at me. Some dissonance there, some inconsistency there. You see, it's okay to have labels. It's okay to see yourself a certain way. Self-esteem comes from confidence, and confidence comes from competence. And competence simply means that talking said talk requires walking said walk. Or as Marcus Hendricks used to say, everybody wants to be a gangster until they are forced to participate in requisite gangster activities. Now, that's not exactly how Marcus would say it, but you get the drift. I read an article one time about a guy who promoted himself to black belt because he thought he deserved it. He recognized nobody in his gym, his teacher, the guys he worked out with, didn't recognize that, but he decided that he deserved. So he gave himself a black belt, and then every time he goes into a tournament at the black belt level, he gets exposed. He's not too bad for anybody. He's just bad. If I wear a label on my shoulders that I'm this or that, but by action, response, inaction, or lifestyle, it proves to be inconsistent with that declaration, then I believe some embarrassment is in order and some adjustment would need to be made. You see, for example, the back of your jersey says, I love my spouse. I love my God. I love my kids. I love my country. I am a Christian. And if you have those things written across your back and we stood behind you and watched you, could you remain standing there? Would you have to leave because you were embarrassed? A lot of people are confident, and there's nothing wrong with being confident. Some people struggle with being overconfident, But the difference in being delusional and being an imposter is in whether or not we are self-absorbed or self-aware. I think I'm good at some things. I'm not the best at things. See, there's nothing wrong with accepting the fact that you are good at something or that you are indeed something. The problem comes in only living to prove it or by being shattered if someone or anyone disagrees with it. You see, then our lives are controlled by hubris, arrogance, and maybe narcissism. But on the other side of that, I think worse than living with this false sense of something that you are, as far as pride and hubris and arrogance and narcissism, what if it's the opposite of that? What if you've been given a label to wear, or you've adopted a label because of something you did not do, or failed at doing, or because someone failed you, or simply because of what happened to you? What if you have this label across your shoulder and you wear it, and although you wear it and it feels true, what if it's just not true? You see, this is the opposite of hubris and pride and arrogance and narcissism. It's not even about humility. This is about being humiliated. You see, having failed doesn't mean you're always a failure. Having lost does not make us permanent losers. And having sinned does not make us perpetual sinners. The bad labels, the backs of our jerseys that tell us we are too bad for God, we are too bad for grace, we are too bad to be loved, forgiven, healed, accepted, or valued, those labels are everywhere. Those jerseys are available for us to just pick up and don and carry the rest of our lives. And sometimes we choose them for ourselves. Sometimes they're not chosen for us, but we choose to wear them because someone gave them to us and we just accepted them. The beautiful part of redemption is that justification is better than guilt. You see, that word justification is a word Paul will use 27 times in the New Testament, in the book of Romans and the book of Galatians. In every one of those instances except two, when he talks about justified, it simply means not guilty. And in the two exceptions, the way it's worded means you are made right or made righteous. And I'm not talking about a false label, but I'm talking about a label that someone more important than anybody you know gave you. The label comes from God. You see, I found in one of Lonnie Beth's old Bibles, she'd written in the margins, and beside Romans chapter 4, verse 17, she wrote in that little girl's handwriting, my dad's favorite verse. And the verse paraphrased is God, who gives life to the dead and calls things that are not as though they were. This is not God allowing us to call ourselves perfect or elite or better than someone else. This is where God takes the weak and they are called strong. The dead are called alive. The lost are called found. The guilty are justified. The captives are free. The broken are mended. The useless are useful. And the sinners can be called saints. And those labels come from God. And it's not because of what we've done. And it's not because of what was done to us. But rather what was done for us. If you know that, you're very blessed indeed. If you believe that, you're very blessed indeed. But if you don't know that, and you don't believe that, and you don't live that way, too bad for you. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use two large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707. 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3Ws and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the donate here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. They aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. Heritage Christian University produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education and offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and Master of Divinity. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University, formerly International Bible College, has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt after graduation. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu. That's 3Ws and a dot, hcu.edu. Heritage Christian University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.